speaker tonight. It is not only an honor getting asked to speak, but this is my first time at this event. I am looking forward to networking with people who have similar ideas. In my speech, I have tried to include ideas for all ages. First, I must say I have always had the desire to communicate both my wants and needs. Needing an alternative form of communication, this has always involved additional steps, but this has never slowed me down. I believe it has done just the opposite. It has increased my desire to express my wishes and concerns. One of the earlier examples of me advocating for myself was sitting home with my parents and noticing that the first snowfall of the season was occurring. As little kids tend to be, I was excited and wanting to go outside to play. Unfortunately, they had not yet started communication boards with me, so I needed to rely on resources available to me at the time, such as the refrigerator and the outside window. I have never thought of this before, but this was the first time I had advocated for myself. It worked, because my first communication board was introduced shortly afterwards. My point with telling this story is I believe there is nothing wrong with teaching little children how to advocate for themselves within reason. Even if it is just a book or a toy. They want something, and what better way to begin to advocate? The earlier we begin teaching advocacy skills, the better results we will witness in the future. During my childhood, after receiving a means of communication, I would at times advocate for myself, whether I wanted a physical good, like a toy, or to do some activity. Back in elementary school, I remember wanting to join the chess club, not only to learn the game of chess but to belong to something. Later in high school, I took it upon myself to will to job service when I wanted to gain part-time employment, where I was placed in a youth training program. Eventually, I was placed at Dakota Systems doing data entry, where I put some of their catalogs online. I know some of your clientele work, and from living it I must say that is so beneficial towards somebody's self-esteem. We feel like we are finally contributing to society instead of just taking. My dad remembers the first time I needed to file taxes. I was jumping for joy, and he had not seen anybody that happy over paying taxes before. I am still happy to pay my fair share of taxes. If I am going to live here, I may as well contribute. Once I reached adulthood, I again took it upon myself to email the Prent Karomich company, the company behind my communication device, saying that I would love to work for them. As you can imagine, I needed to prove myself, but eventually I got hired as a remote troubleshooter. I work off hours when the company is typically closed. I have been doing remote troubleshooting for the past 18 years, and I am still happy. Sometimes we should go with what the person wants, rather than what looks good on paper. Another time that I have taken advocacy upon myself was when I wanted to move out of my parents' house and into my own townhouse. I wanted to try independent living. I lived out on my own for 17 years, and I did quite well with attendance coming in. After my parents' divorce, I decided to put in an offer to buy their house, the house that was originally built with me in mind. I moved back a couple of years ago, and I am happy being back in the neighborhood with familiar faces. As neighborhoods tend to do, there were some newer faces as well, and most of us are friends now. This is another thing I believe in. People deserve happiness and to be part of a community. When Achieve Therapy and Fitness moved to their Columbia Road location, I originally ended up over there because of my curiosity. I am sure some of you know their Columbia Road location was a funeral home, and yours truly was wondering how they converted it into a gym. I was only expecting a tour, but I ended up with one of the owners discussing a personal fitness program I could possibly do. He agreed to work with me on a temporary basis. This was a decade ago, and I am still going 3 times a week. They have also taken on a couple of other clientele with special needs, now that they know what to do. All you need to do is ask, and sometimes people even deliver more than what you are asking for. Over the years I have begun talking to my doctor rather than relying on somebody else. I know with some clientele, they cannot entirely explain their symptoms, but they can at least share how they are feeling and where it hurts. Other than advocating for myself, I have tried to advocate for other people, especially the voiceless. Sure, I can stand up here tonight and give this speech, but what about those who cannot? They are still entitled to have a voice even if it is not theirs. I can name a couple of things I have done, and still would like to do for people with disabilities. Nearly a decade ago, we restored nighttime transportation in Grand Forks. When we started, it was ending at 6 p.m., and we extended it to 10 p.m. so people can participate in more things. While this may be great, they still are not operating on Sunday, leaving people home. Ideally, I would like to see transportation 24/7 just like in bigger cities. I have even thought once my parents are no longer around, I am moving just for this reason. Another thing with Dial a Ride I did not know before this summer, is they do not go out to the airport to drop off or pick up people. I know they run within a fixed bus route, but I would be willing to pay extra for that service. It is not like I fly somewhere every day, but it would be nice to know that is available. I would like to focus on accommodations at hotels, as the next step in my self-advocacy. My family and I have stayed at several hotels, where they have provided the bare minimum to what the Americans with Disabilities Act requires. One of the things to look at are the number of rooms available with roll-in showers, especially with more people with disabilities traveling. Speaking of the Americans with Disabilities Act, it is a nice piece of legislation and some of us may have gained a lot from its passage. However, it is 28 years old, and it may be time for the Americans with Disabilities Act 2.0. We have learned a lot from the current version, so how about taking what we have learned and improving it? Just this summer, I spoke out against the planned changes to the Affordable Care Act. Sure, I told my personal story, and why I need it in my own life, but I felt like I was speaking for millions. We may have won that round thanks to John McCain, but I feel we should be always on alert. I have several friends who are parents to children with special needs, and I keep telling them we will fight whatever together. I know we were concerned last spring when Betsy DeVos became the Secretary of Education. A lot of us are still worried, thinking what she may do to IDEA, but we need to remember everybody is in this together. If we need to rebuild portions of IDEA, we are going to rebuild them. I feel it is our duty to future generations. Along with rebuilding whatever, we need to educate people so this does not occur again. I feel self-advocacy is so important, and it is something everybody can do in their own way. It is like the saying, it takes a village. We are all in this together. Some of us may have a different skill set, but we can still contribute. In closing, I want to thank you again for having me. See you next year at this dinner, if not sooner.